Today we're going to look at the Procura mobile phone application. You can see my phone screen on the screen in front of you at the moment, and I'm just going to click onto the Procura training icon. In the live environment, that icon will just say Procura. I am going to enter in my username and password, so my username's already there. Entering in my very well-coded password of password and logging into the Procura app. Now, when the app has logged in, I will be able to see a little bit of information about the clients that I have scheduled for the day. Excellent. What I can see on the screen in front of me is the Procura app. You can see there are my standard phone buttons down the bottom of the screen. The home key will take me back to my home screen. I can see every app that I've got open by clicking on to that shuffle icon there. And there, of course, is the back button. Within the app itself, I can see there's a few different options. I can always see today's date when I first open. Now, I will only see a list of visits here if I have pre-scheduled visits with clients. If those visits aren't pre-scheduled, then they won't be showing in my phone list. I can see I've got an arrow either side of the date, and that means I can actually go back to yesterday and see what I was doing yesterday. And I can go forward back to today, to tomorrow, and I can also see the day after, at which point the arrows will no longer be available. Now just go back to today and let's have a look at the visits that are showing for me. My very first appointment that I have showing in the list is showing for John Lane. His address has been scrambled for the training database, but usually that would show a client's address. It's telling me it is a 0 to 4 to 5 minute visit, and it's in a status of new. Now, what that says to me is this is an O4 message. And there's something that I need to read within this message. So it's not necessarily, well, it's not at all a visit that I'm going out to do, but as I can see, if I have a look a little bit later in the day, I do actually have a visit scheduled with John. Below John's visit, I can see my next visit that I have scheduled with Mr. Barker between 7 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. And then it goes down through my clients with their different scheduled times. Now, even though there are firmly scheduled times showing here on my phone or on my schedule, I can start these visits at any time. So it's just not going to generate any sort of error if I was to arrive at Mr. Barker's house at 7:45 and start my visit there. If I had John highlighted, actually I'll double click onto his visit and that's opened up this screen here. I can see some more information here, some care plan information. And I'm just going to scroll up on this visit. What I'm seeing here in the appointment information area is these comments, and that is my O4 message. So it says, comments, please call 30 minutes before visit. Dogs will need to be put in the backyard. So I know that I do need to call John before I attend to his visit. Let me just go back to my main screen by clicking onto the back arrow. I can see that John's visit is scheduled for today at between 9:50 and 10:50, but it may be that it's easier for me to start my day with John's visit. So with that in mind, if it was time to call John 30 minutes prior, I could on either one, either this very first visit here or this visit here, I can go in and click onto these three dots and it gives me the option to call the client. If I press the call client button, it automatically puts John's phone number into my phone screen. And if I wanted to call him at this point, all I would need to do is press that green call button. I think this might be an actual number, so I won't call it for now. Let me just go back. And I'll go back again. So I could call John directly from the phone screen. If I did then want to navigate to his home, actually I'll show you with Rosemary because she has an address there. So if I wanted to navigate to Rosemary's home, I've just clicked onto her visit, opening up the visit screen here, and at the top of the screen here I can see I've got this, it looks like a mountain with a marker on it. This will actually open up Google Maps for me. So if I click onto that once we're in a visit, that's going to launch Google Maps, and it will give me the option to actually start directions to the client's home. So it's not a step that you have to do. I know for some people it is their preference to use Google Maps. I'm a big Google Maps user, but entirely up to you whether or not you use it. It's just a function that is built into the Procura application. Obviously, if I clicked onto directions, it will start giving me those directions to this client's house. I'll just go back again and back into my Procura app. Going back to the main screen, so I do have my list of visits here. If I was now to start a visit, let's say I navigated to John's house and I'm ready to start his care. So I've pulled up at the front of his house, I'll click onto his visit and open up his appointment details screen. In here it's telling me the basic information for him. I can see that the care plan for today is for general nursing care and for CVC ongoing support. I can see some basic information here saying that he is in LAT 16D, he's got a weekday pattern, and episode information will tell me additional things about the funder. Now, if I was ready to start my visit with John, it's just a matter of going to the top of the screen and pressing this play icon or the triangle. It now tells me that my visit will be started at 2:14 p.m. It's a little bit later than the scheduled 9:30 a.m, but again, Procura will allow you to start outside of those times. So if I press the start button, one of the main things that will happen, now another screen has popped up, but just let me go back and show you what's happened within my main list. I'm pressing the back icon again. And what I can see here is the visit that I had scheduled with John is now showing it a status of open. So previously it said new, just like the rest of these visits, and now it's showing as open. So what that means is that I have this visit active. If I click back into John, it takes me back to the screen that I was looking at before. Now there's a few more things that I can find in the Procura application. If I click onto this icon here, so it's like a head with some lines next to it, this will give me some more client details. I can see that John is a male and his date of birth. I can also see his UR number both here and down here. I can see some contact information for John, both his formal contact, Dr. Houseman, and an informal contact here as well. I'm scrolling up on the screen now and I can see client allergies. This is quite interesting. He's got an other type allergy, which ideally I can fix up when I actually go into the client's record on my laptop. His diagnosis is showing here as well. I can see some comments in regards to his previous diagnoses here. Client languages and hazards. If we have a look at this hazard information, there is quite a bit of information in here, and what you will notice is the information that's appearing in the client hazards is very similar, or in fact it is the information that's been drawn from your SAT in Camillus. So I can see with this particular hazard here, it says access to property, harm employee true, which is an unusual thing to say. Comments, are there any specific instructions to locate or ensure safe access to the property / and then I can see 3 dots. Whenever you see those 3 dots, you can click on to that item. It will expand in a separate screen and then you can read the additional information. Now, just as a side note, this harm employee true, it is referring to tick boxes within the client physical environment and hazard section in the Procura desktop application. So it does come across a little bit strange within the app itself, but that is what it's referring to. Again, I can navigate back to the last screen just by clicking onto the back button, and that takes me exactly to where I was before. So I can scroll through and see the remainder of the client hazards. Now, one thing that has happened here is to complete the visit, there's a few additional steps that I'll need to take. Let me just click back again. Now, in this screen now, the 3 dots that I used before to place a phone call now have a few additional options. This document button, if I click onto that, this brings me to the screen it originally showed me when I first started my visit. Now, in this screen here, I can advise what I have actually completed within my visit. So this would be the very last thing you do when you have completed your client care. As a general workflow, you would arrive at the client's home, start the visit, then look for additional information both on your phone and on your desktop application. So doing things like reading the client's diagnoses, their care plan information, their previous dated notes, any additional information that you may need, allergies, hazards, that sort of thing before entering the home. You would enter the home, deliver the care, record the information again on your desktop application, and then when you have completed, you return to the app itself. Now, within the app, this screen here, it's saying we've had general nursing care scheduled and I need to notify whether or not I completed that care. If I did complete that care, it's just a matter of tapping on to that option and you'll see a green tick will show up next to the general nursing care. It's the same for the CVC ongoing support. If I have completed, I can just tap onto it. If I didn't complete it for whatever reason, maybe the client refused care or whatever it was, you just don't tick the option at this point. If you go down to the complete button at the bottom of the screen, that is going to launch a separate observation document. Now, what we're seeing here is a series of questions that we do need to answer before we can actually complete this visit. It's just reconnecting here, which is fun. Hopefully it will take me back to the same place. A really good demonstration of how Procura sometimes just closes itself down. I will let you know at this point that your screen will lock. The automatic lock that you've got on your screen will continue whether you've got Procura open or not. But as you can see, even though my screen closed down momentarily, my visit is still showing as open. And I'm going to go back to my 3 dots at the top of the screen. And I had already completed the document step, but I can show you that again. And I've got my observations link here. So I could go directly to observations through here or via document, either or. So if I press the complete button here, it's going to launch those observation questions again. Now, with these questions, any of these questions that have the red square next to them, it's telling me that that is a mandatory question. So I'll click onto the first one. It's giving me a question. If the care was not provided, provide a reason. Select not applicable if care was provided. Now remember, I have said that I've provided the general nursing care, but not the CVC. So if I click here, I've got a series of options here. The very first one, not applicable. I've got client not home, not seen, or client refused care. No care required. So I just select whatever the reason is. It may be, let's go with client refused care. Oops. And I'll say okay. If I click next, it will take me to the next question in the list. Now remember, the second one was not mandatory. However, let's have a look at the question. If the care was not provided, record additional comments as appropriate, skip if care was attended. So I've said that the client refused care, and I can just put some additional information. So I'm just typing directly on my keypad. So I'm saying the client refused care, they were irritable, and they wanted me to leave. So just a brief explanation as to what happened. If I click on to next, my next mandatory question is going to show on the screen. And again, I can tell it's mandatory because I have this red line here. The question it's now asking me is this a DVA nursing visit and some personal care was provided by the nurse in the visit? It says nurses to select yes or no. CCAs only ever to select not applicable. So is this a DVA nursing visit? In this instance, the client was not a DVA client, so I'm going to select no and say okay. The next question is also a non-mandatory question, however, it relates directly to the question that I've just answered. If I click on to next, the next question says, how much time in minutes of personal care activity was provided in the visit? Now, this wasn't relevant. It actually goes on to say, if no or not applicable from previous answers, skip this question. If it was DVA, I would simply type in here and say how many minutes, but I'll click on to next. The next question is, which work group does the client belong to? So I'll select the client's work group from the list and say okay. I no longer have a next button here, so I'll just click on to list, and that will take me back to show me that I have now successfully answered all of the questions, the observation questions, and I can press complete. And it's showing me that my visit has lasted for a duration of 10 minutes. So it was started at 2:14 p.m. and I've ended the visit at 2:24 p.m. If I say complete, my visit status has now changed from new to open to complete. So throughout the day, I would just be clicking on to the visit for my next client, pressing the start button to start the visit. And upon finishing the client care, documenting the care that I have provided and answering the questions.